First of all, I should say this. We've been talking about this idea. We've addressed mean reversion before, just as you're looking at that graphic over there. The idea overall that you could have a market move as sharply as it did to the downside, way below its averages, and then maybe get a bit of a bounce. So maybe not a surprise for some folks out there that we did have two pretty decent up days, but again, off of a very long stretch of down moves and a pretty marked move to the downside in terms of percentages as well. So that's something to keep in mind, Joe. But let's kind of take a look at where the action was and maybe why some folks are taking a little bit of a more positive tilt towards the action. The moves in points weren't as good as they were at the peaks. However, the leadership that we saw yesterday was. And the reason why is because we saw technology, communication services, and consumer discretionary. That's pretty much FANG. Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google parent company Alphabet. Those types of stocks were the ones that showed some move higher towards the latter part of the week. And that may bode well because that was leadership in the past. That's something to keep an eye on. The other ones that we're going to watch here in terms of sectors are the ones that really underperformed. And that could, again, be a reason why you're going to be a little bit more optimistic, because it was the defensive names, the interest rate sensitive, the less economically sensitive ones like real estate and Spider, the utilities. Those are the ones that kind of tailed off a little bit towards the end of the week. And that's the reason why maybe some investors are feeling a little less defensive and a little bit more cyclical, a little bit more bullish on what's happening right now. As we talk about the market action, you guys referenced the fact that it was a very bad October, one to forget. The reason why is because we did have the worst month for the Dow since January of 2016. It was the worst month overall for the S&P 500 since September of 2011, and the worst month for the NASDAQ since November of 2008. For the S&P 500 specifically, guys, one thing to keep in mind, we had a pretty volatile month in terms of just the overall movements because we had 10 trading days out of 23 that had 1% plus moves. That's up or down. So that's something also to keep in mind. And then if you're looking for what the future might hold, there's a reason why some analysts and strategists out there are feeling a little bit more bullish about the overall picture for the rest of the year. Because in midterm election years, and we've talked about this before, we typically do see a nice move higher for the NASDAQ, up on average 11% of the time. The S&P, 8.5% gains there. And they're generally positive, 78, 89, 90-ish% of the time. If we were to get to those average numbers, Joe, Becky, it would take a lot of heavy lifting from the months of November and December. So that's one of the reasons why some folks are thinking maybe we could be due for that really good Santa Claus rally by the time this is all done, guys. Back over to you.
I'm back to garden variety correction, which I don't like to say because
is there a garden variety anything?
It sounds very glib.
It sounds glib, and
like
it just sounds like
zucchini.
No, just something that we've seen. Nothing worse than that. Maybe. I mean, the Dow never had a close down 10%. I mean, we need a 10% correction every once in a while.
We do, but you know, remember, guys, we talked about this idea that it could have been really bad if we didn't get a bounce yesterday, only because Ryan Dietrich over at LPL Financial told us if we didn't get one back-to-back gain through the month of October, it would have been the first October in market history for the S&P 500 that October did not have at least a back-to-back gain. And you're looking at the Dow's volatile October.
We avoided another dubious distinction, and that was if we had seen 17 down days of trading for the S&P in the month of October, that would have been the longest, the first time we've seen that in almost 50 years. You have to go back to 1970 to see that.
There were a lot of superlatives, and that's the reason why a lot of folks are saying with this kind of a sharp move down, maybe it sets us up pretty good. It was a flush, perhaps, for a nice move up in November and December, guys.